Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So the Tory media smell blood. Angela Rayner underpaid some tax. However, she says she has proof that she acted in good faith and the error was on the part of her legal advice. So is she in the clear? Well, it depends. There are reasons why the Tories and their client media will want Rayner to resign. I'll explain what they are because it will also explain why the media are going to push this very, very hard. What will ultimately matter is what will the public think? And this is a very big issue for Labour. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So there's three questions here. Did Rayner do anything wrong? Why will Labour want to desperately keep Rayner in post and the Tories equally desperately want her gone? And what will determine whether she stays or goes? So the first question, did she do anything wrong? Well, this is one of those classic situations where people line up in tribal formation. Those backing Labour say she made an innocent mistake, should not resign. Those attacking Labour think it's the most grievous offence ever committed by a British member of the Crown, Minister of the Crown rather, and she should be sent immediately to the Tower. So Rayner was engaging in tax avoidance with the purpose of maximising the financial safety net for the vulnerable child she had with her ex-husband, who was also part of the operation. Now, as I've said many times before, I don't like tax avoidance. I also think there is a question of whether any Labour minister should really engage in tax avoidance schemes when the Labour government is actively trying to dismantle those schemes. It would be a bit different if Labour would say, well, actually, some tax avoidance is okay. No. Labour's position is tax avoidance is bad. Legal, but bad. Even if Rayner has broken no rules, there is still that one rule for us, one rule for them about this. So regardless of anything else, Rayner has acted recklessly in inviting a situation whereby the Tory media could highlight hypocrisy. She has basically exposed some political naivety at best. And this particular form of it could genuinely cut through to a public struggling to afford basics and reading news about a woman rich enough to afford a very expensive flat and not pay the right tax on it. However, the real blow was when it was revealed she hadn't actually managed the tax avoidance correctly and had indeed underpaid tax. Rayner claims it was an innocent mistake on the part of her and her ex-husband, who received bad tax advice, and a subsequent tax lawyer said, yeah, that was not right. Yeah. Now, she will presumably have documentary evidence of this, letters and so on. Otherwise, I think she would have absolutely resigned by now. Keir Starmer offering her unequivocal support in Parliament yesterday will only have happened because her story is checking out. Obviously, we'll need to wait independent investigations, but if Rayner has the letters proving the bad advice given to her, she can easily claim she acted in good faith. However, this isn't necessarily how the Tory media will report on it. But before we get to that, let's look at why they will push this very hard. So Angela Rayner is not just a senior member of the government. She is in charge of a project which is absolutely critical to Labour's chances at the next election. Never mind the polling now, that isn't based on delivery yet. Labour are looking to deliver tangible improvements to people's standard of living. Better community healthcare, cleaner, cheaper energy, better pay and conditions in the workplace, better public transport, and of course, more housing, including affordable and social housing. The housing issue is absolutely critical. If Labour meet their aims, not only can they win back support from people who have been struggling with housing, but it could also reduce the potency of the current anti-asylum debate, which very much stands on a framework of housing. It's an absolutely vital project, and Rayner is critical to its success. She is leading it. So would it really matter if she resigned and was replaced by a different minister, because the project will still go ahead and they'll still have someone leading it? Yes, it would. For two reasons. The first is that Angela Rayner has been running this project for years. She was in charge of the planning when Labour were in opposition, and for just over a year now, the delivery. No replacement could possibly know what she knows about it, which means they cannot possibly pick up where she left off on day one. They would need to be brought up to speed with everything, and they may make different policy decisions, which means there could be disconnects on some parts of it. It's a very complex operation, and some bits could fall by the wayside and no one realises for a couple of years, by which time you've got a mess on your hands. The replacement of ministers always results in delays and sometimes disjointed implementation. It's literally replacing the captain of the ship halfway along the voyage. You might get away with this for a relatively straightforward project or one where the timeline isn't that tight. But Labour's housing ambitions are already considered difficult. They're stretched. Some don't think they can meet them. Any spanner in the works would seriously reduce the chances of Labour being able to deliver a key part of their strategy for winning the next election. The second issue is you'd need a very competent minister to replace her. Now, I will say Angela Rayner's actually done a very good job so far. She's not just been politically useful for Labour, she has actually led her department competently as far as I can tell, even wangling funds out of a very tight-fisted Rachel Reeves. If Labour replace her with someone either not as competent or without as much clout with the Treasury, the project doesn't just suffer delays while they get up to speed, they may never get up to the same speed. And if you proceed more slowly, you're not going to reach that destination in time. And then what if you can find someone who's competent enough and has that clout to do the job without risking too many delays, because there will be delays during the transition? Well, that means Starmer will have had to have plucked them from a different project, and that project will suffer. However you look at it, if Rayner resigns, Labour's already difficult challengers will suffer setbacks. So you can see why Labour would be absolutely desperate to keep Rayner in place, and the Tories equally desperate to force her out. In fact, the smell of blood here for the Tory press is so potent, they will not drop this, ever. Normally, if the Prime Minister offers the sort of unambiguous 100% backing for a colleague under fire that Starmer gave Rayner yesterday, it could be a sign that they just know there's nothing in this and it'll blow over. But in this particular case, it could also just be because Rayner is so instrumental to Labour's continued success that they are going to keep hold of her until it's an utterly hopeless situation. She's in charge of housing as well as local government reforms. The first, at least, is vital to their next election campaign, but the other's important as well. But Rayner herself is also a role model. Young, impoverished single mother to Deputy Prime Minister in charge of a vital government department, right? She's also able to engage with some voters with which the other big names would be less effective. If the Tories can destroy her reputation, they score so many points at once. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say she is an absolute linchpin for this government. Even if public opinion doesn't turn on Rayner and she remains in post, the media will keep bringing this back up. No matter what happens, they can still use the one rule for them, another for the rest of us line. This is because even if Rayner was misadvised and she broke no rules, at least not deliberately, she has tried to avoid tax, albeit legally. And who would be most upset about that? Not the usual tax avoiders, because they tend not to vote Labour anyway, especially a Labour government which promised to crack down on tax avoidance in their manifesto. No, it's the people who are against tax avoidance in the first place. Remember, manifesto said we're going to crack down on tax evasion and tax avoidance. That had to appeal to people. Every line in a manifesto is designed to appeal to someone, right? This is something which could strike a chord with the very voters Labour need on their side. The graffiti seen on the offending flat today, which may have been put there by a right-wing hack, might cut through to a struggling population. The main saving grace is that Angela Rayner is herself, very obviously from a working-class, impoverished background, never really lost that common touch. She may benefit from a tribal loyalty that someone like, say, Keir Starmer in the same situation would not get. But damage will still be done to Labour regardless, even if Rayner can prove beyond doubt that her lawyer gave her bad advice, that the error was not hers. One thing nobody denies is she did try to avoid paying the normal amount of tax. Voters don't have to make judgments on purely legal grounds, especially for the people who make our laws. Morality is a vital part of the debate. Will people decide that Rayner just wanted to do the best by her vulnerable child and made no attempts to break any rules? Or will they think it's disrespectful to be actively trying to avoid tax when you're now rich, regardless of where you came from, when so many millions are struggling and so many people are openly saying that we actually need the rich to pay more tax, not less? I actually genuinely don't know which way this will go. I mean, never mind all the usual confected crap in the media this past year. This is the first major scandal to hit this Labour government, and it couldn't half do with that top-class communications machine right now. As for what I personally think, I don't like tax avoidance. I don't think Labour ministers should engage in it. But the work she's doing, if she succeeds, will help a lot of struggling families and if she doesn't succeed, if she's forced out and that derails the project and Labour lose the next election, that is going to hurt a lot of struggling families. And that's more important for me. But what will others think? The Tories smell blood and they're on the hunt for the sort of scalp they wouldn't have thought possible before now. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.